AI isn't making kids smarter, and it's not making them dumber. It's changing where the thinking happens. And that distinction matters far more than most people realize. Because learning doesn't come from polished answers, and it doesn't come from speed, and it doesn't come from sounding impressive. Learning comes from effort, from confusion, from sitting with uncertainty long enough for the brain to do its work. This conversation isn't about removing AI completely. It's not about panic, and it's not about blaming your kids for using the tools right in front of them. It's about a quieter question, one almost no one is asking. When my child uses AI, is it supporting their thinking or quietly replacing it? Because on the surface, everything looks fine. Homework gets done, grades don't drop, the writing sounds better. Sometimes it sounds impressive, but underneath the surface, something important may be shifting. And most parents will never see it happening. Kids finish faster, they sound more articulate, they appear more confident. So we assume the learning is improving, but the learning isn't just what shows up on the page. It's what the brain had to do to produce it. Tools just don't change outcomes. They change progress. And that's the difference between outcomes and progress. That's where the entire conversation lives. Decades of learning science points to the same conclusion. People learn more deeply when they retrieve ideas from memory, when they generate answers themselves, when they struggle just enough to stay engaged, but not so much where they shut completely down. That struggle, it isn't failure. That's the mechanism. The blank page matters. The confusion, that also matters. The mental friction matters. These moments aren't obstacles to learning. They're just learning. So when a tool removes too much of that work, the answers may improve while understanding quietly thins out. This isn't speculation. This is how memory formation works. Now, let's slow down and be precise. The learning principles themselves aren't new. We all understand them very well. What is new is constant on-demand access to systems that can generate complete, confident sounding answers instantly, especially for kids, especially in the years when learning habits are being formed. So this isn't a claim that AI is harmful by default. It's more of a careful claim. Learning outcomes depend on where effort happens, and AI can quietly move that effort away from the learner, unless we're intentional about how those tools and how AI is used. That's not fear. That's applying known science to a new environment. But here's the subtle shift that most people miss. Kids move from thinking to, I need to come up with something, to thinking, I need to decide what sounds right. Selection feels like thinking. Editing feels productive. And yes, those skills matter. But generating and creating ideas from nothing builds reasoning. It builds confidence, and it builds mental endurance. If students skip this step too often and too early, they miss the hardest and most valuable part of learning. And no one notices because the work still looks good. Let's make this concrete. Think about an essay. Before AI, a student stares at a blank page. They struggle with how to start, what they actually believe, how to organize messy thoughts into something coherent. That struggle feels inefficient, uncomfortable, and sometimes frustrating. But that's the work. Now introduce AI. A prompt goes in, gives you a clean response, structured, confident, and well phrased. If the student task becomes editing instead of thinking, they may submit stronger work, but the brain skips the part that builds the understanding. That doesn't make them lazy. It doesn't make them dishonest. It means the tool has absorbed the cognitive load. There's a well-established concept called cognitive offloading. When people rely on tools, they remember where to find information instead of remembering the information itself. And AI takes this much further. It doesn't store knowledge. It assembles the answers, very smooth ones, persuasive ones, often better than what a developing mind could produce on its own. So the risk isn't tool use. Humans have always used tools to extend capability. The risk is outsourcing too much thinking too early without realizing what's being traded away, especially when the feedback loops still look positive. Grades are fine, teachers are satisfied, parents are relieved. But learning isn't just performance, it's capacity. It's whether a student can learn without the tool, whether they can struggle productively, whether they can hold complexity in their own mind. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. The goal isn't to keep AI out of learning. The goal is to keep thinking inside the learner. That means using AI as a scaffold, not as a replacement, as a mirror, not as a substitute, as a guide, and not as a driver. In the next video, we'll go a little bit deeper how AI reshapes learning habits over time and why most parents don't notice the change until much later. If this matters to you, and especially if you're navigating this with your kids right now, subscribe because this conversation is just getting started.